All right, who's up?
Ms. Harrison, we just need to do one more thing, that James may come up to that monitor to push that got it button.
Yeah.
Oh. Gotta come back here.
Oh, you gotta come back here.
There we go. You're all set. Have a good meeting.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the Shellfish Advisory Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order at 7:38. We don't have any minutes, and I apologize. We're going to have them next time. Our recording secretary has been under the weather and unable to do all the minutes. I think we're behind on 2, but I do want to mention that they are available. All the meetings have been recorded and are on Scituate TV, Facebook Live, if you would like to listen to them or prior to next week, the next 2 weeks. So first on the agenda is the aquaculture update. And I will start the update and then maybe Mike can add some things. We met with, so our follow-up was to get a map and try to do coordinates. Mike and I were able to meet with DMF and they were super helpful. We went through our process and told them everything that we've done, and my takeaway is we're overthinking everything. So I guess that's good that we're overthinking it, but the process that will happen is that the DMF scientists will come out and survey the area, and what they're requesting from us is a larger area, not specific acres like 1 acre, 1 acre. What they want is a larger area, and they will go out and look at the area to see if there's any eelgrass, and then they will certify the site. So what we did was we took back those instructions, and they showed us how to use their map. They have maps that they use, and I was able to block out like two spaces, and that it equals roughly 10 acres. Could be more, could be less. I think it was like 10.8 was my rough calculation, but it could be not 10.8 because they're gonna go out and they're gonna do the site survey themselves. This is just guiding them into an appropriate area. And so obviously we didn't do all the acreage that could be possible. We just did a couple spots that they would be able to go out and look at. They intend to go out in May, at the absolute latest early June. So we're very close to actually having a spot that's certified by DMF. We're super excited about that. They will come out we'll bring them out in a boat, and they will put divers overboard with cameras, and it sounds really cool to me. And then they will come up with the coordinates based on our rough estimate. They will give the exact coordinates and be able to validate that, and then we would move on to the select board for having specific aquaculture sites from there. The other takeaway, and I'll have Mike add, is we talked about our regulations, and we talked with them about some of the issues that the recreational boaters or neighbors or constituents were bringing up, specifically to unloading in the Minot Beach parking lot, for better description, or up in that area. And they suggested some other towns have put into their regulations only specific places that can offload, like Scituate Harbor, for example. So they've found that has helped, and we thought that would be a good thing to do. They've also said that some of the concerns on debris on the beaches and all sorts of stuff, some towns have also put in their regulations that there's no overwintering. So they've had where all the cages need to be taken out in the fall. So we got some great, I thought it was great that we got some great feedback. And those were two problems that we were kind of struggling with in previous meetings. And they are also going to look at our regulations too and see if they have any other suggestions that would facilitate some of the issues that we were having. Those were, I think, the big takeaways from me. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, the overwintering thing was a big thing, and so was the designated offloading sites that we probably got talked about. I think we talked about it at the last meeting, but we can definitely discuss it tonight as well. I'll be there about 12 minutes.
Okay. All right.
That was nice they shared that, and because last meeting I thought there was a little confusion about would we have to assign sites and then they would come out.
Yeah, there was a little confusion about that. And I think this is probably the best way. Then we like kind of cut the debate of like, you know,
Is it okay?
Yeah, is it okay? Do you have the right coordinates? Does this map have that coordinates and that have that coordinates? Then it just completely shuts off, like, they're the ones that decide either way, right? Like we come with our best information that we've got, and they come and they're the ones that decide. So they're down there with, you know, with tools that will tell you exactly where you are.
We'll get a good map.
And we'll get a good map, and we'll, you know, we're gonna give them, hey, this is the area, roughly 5 acres over here, and roughly 5 acres over here. And they'll be able to certify that.
Plus, we have designated coordinates as well.
Designated what, Mike?
Coordinates.
Coordinates, right.
Yep, and they would have designated they would give designated coordinates. So,
You want to share that?
I can, any other questions before I get into, I can share the map that I did to kind of guide them. And then we can talk about how, I was thinking I would share what I did using how they helped me through how to do this mapping. And it can be this, or we can say that it should move more this way or move more that way, and then maybe that will be something that we can then send to them. So I'm happy to, let me share what I did. Hold on a second. Okay. Hold on a minute. There we go. Okay, so to orient you, this is again super zoomed in. This is the breakwater and the lines here, the shoreline here, the property line here. This is the eelgrass right here, the green patch over here and the green patch over here. This is the channel. This is the channel, and this is the Scituate line. So this is Scituate over here. And this is that mooring right there. That's Scituate over there, and this is Cohasset right here. So, and then the big rock here that is another big landmark. So this is what I did was this is the mean low. Comes down this way, comes up this way, and this is what I drew around. There's a little bit of eelgrass here, so I popped it up this way, come down this way. There was a little bit more eelgrass here from what CSCR found, so I popped it down there and made it a nice little shape. And then this is the kind of channel coming out, so we talked about having 2 areas here, so there's a gap there. And then this here, again, this comes up and it kind of dips over this way, dips up. There's a little more eelgrass here, we think. So it dips down. Now, what happens if, see where my cursor is, we find eelgrass there, we would just pull this line in like this, you know? So it would be a little bit, can you see my hair? Yeah. Okay, sorry, it's a little delayed.
Susan, can you tell me about approximately how wide that gap is? Estimate.
That's a good question. It is, I can tell you these two spots are, we've got these two, we have, this is 6 acres, this top one, and this is like somewhere between 4.5 and 5, 4.5.
So that's 200 plus feet.
That's 200 plus feet, yes. I gave a
That's
big,
about 2 acre
that's-
spot in between.
that's about a 2 acre spot in between. Yes.
As far as the eelgrass, I know that there's been a lot of studies. Can that area, is that just been, has it been the same, that size all this time? I mean, could the eelgrass grow and expand and move?
It's been similar. Good question. It's been similar. It kind of morphs a little bit, which is why I was actually kind of interested how close these lines are. You know, if they go in there and we find that it's a little bit further this way, then we can, you know, pull it down.
And
So-
a good map in addition, maybe next time, would be the mean low line.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
They didn't have that, they don't have that data, but they're,
I mean, we could overlay.
they're working to overlay it, yeah. We will overlay the mean low line too. But, it's very much, if you look, it comes off here and it comes down this way. It does a little jig thing around here, but, and again, I put it off closer to this way. We could also do some here. But, you know, we had said, let's start with a smaller amount, so.
I may have missed this, what are they gonna come out and survey what coordinates we tell them, or are they just gonna cover all?
They're gonna survey that area. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mike. Oh, he'll be here in a minute. So they're gonna go out and survey that whole area, yes.
Oh, within the pink line, Dr.
No, all the purple, yeah, all within there. Yep, they'll survey that whole area and they'll do like a grid.
Okay.
They'll dive with a handful of people and do a grid and survey that whole area.
So what are some possibilities that they give us back that one, you know, that would say, hey, these are some cautions, or what are those possibilities? Like, what are they looking for?
They're looking for eelgrass.
Okay. Is there those?
And yeah, I mean, they usually look for shellfish as well, but so that's also what they're looking for.
And a question over time, if, back to Paul's question, do they ever come back and recertify? I mean, if they say that's good and global warming, eelgrass moves, encroaches, would they ever come back and say, yeah, hey, Mr. Farmer, you now can't farm that pond?
I don't know, that's a great question. I don't know. Mike, do you happen to know that?
I'm just walking in now. I missed half of that. I'm sorry.
Okay,
2 seconds.
yeah, I don't know if they recertify. That is a really good question though, because things do change. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about after this, you know, again, just refocus us.
Yeah.
You know, what is our mission?
Yep.
I think it is, you know, we gotta decide the number of farms, the size of farms. And then we have the ratings already, or the rankings of the applicants. And I think that's our mission. I don't know if there's any other tweaks we need to do on the rules, other than the ones you
Other
mentioned.
than what the DMF, I mean,
Suggested.
yeah. I will mention there's new leadership at DMF, as far as a couple retirements. So it's not a bad thing to have fresh eyes. Plus, like when we wrote the reg, we were looking at other towns and it's been 2 years and they could have done other more innovative things that, you know, or some of our things might not be as good. I mean, I don't think that they'll be kind of larger comments would be my guess, like the 2 suggestions she gave us. Any other questions from the board, and then we can.
Just one comment is
Sure.
when the DMF does come out, you know, depending on schedules and whatnot, because it would be during the day, the more people from the committee that could go,
Yeah,
I think I myself would like to get out there into that area. I haven't been out on the water in that area very much, so I'd like to, I can look at the maps and whatnot, but I'm hoping when it's scheduled, there's plenty of notice, because it would be nice if most of the committee could go. I definitely would like to go. I think it's important that we're there when they're doing all the coordinates and whatnot.
Yeah, as far as scheduling, we would
Right.
have to also schedule on a day that's not blowing, you know.
Right, exactly.
They're gonna need fairly good conditions to do like grid surveys there. Okay, oh, come on up,
Yeah,
bring your chair.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So, there was a question, and I thought you were trying to answer it on recertification. Do they ever come back, DMF, after they certify an area years later to
Oh, I
then
never heard of it, no.
recertify? Okay,
Good
due to
question.
changing
We can look into it,
conditions,
I don't-
yeah.
Only because Paul asked the question, if an area gets certified and, the way that Susan drew those purple highlights
Right.
seems, 20 or 40 feet away from where there's no eelgrass.
Yeah,
What if eelgrass encroaches?
Good question, we can always monitor it. When we're out there.
I mean-
We monitor it.
Would the shellfish constable monitor?
or it
Or
might be a
volunteer-
good thing
or
for
volunteers.
CSCR, yeah, the
Yeah.
students would probably monitor as well. I would think they would want to.
Yeah. I didn't want to say when I was driving here, but the purple is too, like we talked about having the safety buoys around the aquaculture area. So me and Susan talked today about maybe adding the white buoys, like from the corner points, so like white buoy, white buoy, white buoy, white buoy. So this whole area is
Yeah.
isolated, so people aren't driving through there. So,
Or just when, if we decide, whatever we decide, 5 plots, 6 plots, 3
Right.
plots, whatever we decide,
that way
those are.
it's delineated, people can clearly see that it's
Yeah.
aquaculture.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay,
We could put up fences.
strike that from the name.
There's only one document that I can find on the DMF Eelgrass page
Mhm.
about that, and it goes back to 2010, so it doesn't look like they're doing any publication on what they're doing for transplant and monitoring of the eelgrass beds,
Yeah,
at least nothing that is published on their website.
any other?
No, so as far as the eelgrass too, like say if you were putting a dock project in that area of eelgrass to try to mitigate if there was eelgrass in that area with impact, and John Logan from DMF does a whole PowerPoint on the docks mitigation, like versus using mooring blocks and change or piles, things like that, so eelgrass is discussed along those lines. as well.
Yeah.
Also the dredging projects.
Okay,
We
wanna
talk
take
about,
questions, or do you wanna take, or do you have
you
something
might
else?
pull a scab off about the moorings and Scituate waters,
Do you wanna talk about?
do you guys wanna get into that or?
I don't wanna ask questions first on this, and then we can move into some other conversations. Are there any questions from the public? And let me see if I can stop this so that I can see the TV too.
You guys talked about the landing sites, any questions about that at all?
Yeah, the landing site, so the solution on the landing sites, the mitigating. The overwintering, so that would be solve the issue of storms, trash on the beach.
Well, it doesn't solve
Or it
the issue
would-
because the
it would
storm happened in
mitigate it,
June.
yeah, true, minimize, mitigate,
Not that they'd be interested in leaving stuff out there.
not that they would. But if I recall the proposals, I think one of them said they would do the latter,
So,
yeah.
Are there already designated offloading locations, or is that something?
Not in our regs, so we would have to add that to our regs.
I would maybe venture not to just to consider the idea of not designating, but just excluding,
Oh, yeah.
eliminating it. As you can tell, we're all, they wanna go to Boston, who cares where they go, right? I mean, as long as we disallow certain areas.
Yeah, keep them out of the Minot Beach parking lot, because
Yeah. What do you think about that, Mike? Or what?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I know we talked about, I think, the meeting prior about the Minot parking lot. I did talk to the Officer Billings, the Scituate Police, and said, yeah, there's actually I think 1 or 2 private beaches that people lunch from to go out to Secret Beach. And the beach parking lot is kind of small, it's tidal. I don't really think it'd be the best location to offload facing the tide with the hours of the day. I don't, maybe occasionally it could probably work, but occasionally it's probably not the best term to be used for offload. I think it'd be designated Scituate Harbor or inside Cohasset Harbor with the help of the Scituate Police and the harbor master to get permission to use the parking lot boat ramp or some area there. I think that's a possibility to eliminate the Minot, which does seem to be a lot of angst from the people that are here. Something we can discuss as a group and also talk to Select, but that's something that can be explored. I don't think it's an ideal location, but I don't wish for aquaculture. I know we can get in and out of there, but is there any common violations that are going on there? I don't really know. It's not really a concrete boat ramp. It's not really a permanent site, but
Yeah.
so those are things we can definitely look at. There are also things, I mean, our regulations are already strict as they are, talking to Kirsty last 2 weeks ago. So our regs are pretty much stricter than other towns, which is good. It took a year and a half to make them, but we need to go a step further and have the harvesters call in if we have to, especially when we get to the vibrio season.
Yep.
If they're coming in, because you have that like certain amount of ice, a certain amount of hours. I don't really think we need to manage them that strictly. That would be the same as having a lobsterman call in every time he's bringing catch it. It's not conducive. It's not really our job to show them how they're fishing, what they're doing. But our job is to spot check the catch when they come in. It's not just me, it's also the environmental police also have a heavy hand in this as well. So it's not one person's job that can do all this. We cover a lot of area, eyes and ears when people are leaving the area heading south of Scituate Harbor. You can't have volunteers under no enforcement powers, but you can have stewards out there that are out there checking and looking up on this stuff. So it's not just a one person's job. So.
Okay. Any questions from the audience at all? No.
I have a question, Susan. So, let's say there's a road blades person that has a friend that's aquaculture. Would it be allowed for that person to allow that fisherman to run up on his beach and offload there? Just as would that be allowed?
Not if we had it in the regs.
Well, again, we haven't had the regs yet, but I mean.
Yeah. Would it be allowed now
Yeah,
without the regs?
Technically,
Yes.
yes, but no, that's the part we gotta talk about.
right.
That came out of the people that have lived there, they keep coming to these meetings. I'm sure they want to answer, which is fine. but-
Right, so they don't want a neighbor
Yeah.
allowing that fisherman to offload on their property. Even with a skiff or a canoe or anything.
Technically-
Offload shellfish. I mean, they
There's
could,
technically, if it's
they
private,
could come in and out, not bringing shellfish.
right, there's
Right,
technically,
they could serve their,
Wherever they
they could serve their
right,
farm.
technically it's private property, then you're asking the enforcement officer to go on private property to inspect the catch potential. So there's issues legalities with that as well. But if you're isolating certain areas for offloading, then
But if we didn't isolate, that's what I'm saying, so it would be allowed if we didn't isolate.
Correct.
So as the regs stand right now, somebody could, again, I'm not a fisherman, so I don't know the details of what you do every time you go out there. But I could bring a canoe or a skiff just to get out to check my traps and come back in an easy way. And on Thursday, I'm gonna go collect, and I'm gonna collect just a couple of 5-gallon buckets full. And I just wanna go over my neighbor's property, my canoe, my kayak, who knows what it is, because it's close. And we're considering making that not legal. Just wanna make sure I understand.
that's not technically harvesting, that's just working.
Right.
But you're talking harvesting and removing shellfish from the site.
We're
That probably-
Yeah, so, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm gonna organize it, Thursday, I'm gonna go out and
Right,
collect.
I don't see an issue with that, that's no different than a guy walking out from the glades area go on recreational shellfish. Yeah.
Or kayak.
How you can run your,
Right, so what we're saying is you wouldn't be able, and again, I'm not sure how much you could take, but a couple of buckets full, and we're saying.
that'll be hard.
Yeah, we're saying no.
We're saying you can't, what we're considering saying is you can't harvest onto private property.
Or yeah.
You just have your landing sites.
You're just defining the landing sites where you have to.
Which aren't.
Or we're excluding some, again,
Or
I
excluding, one
would
of the
rather
two.
exclude than
But DMF is recommending that we do that.
that we permit specific sites
That
or
we,
exclude specific sites.
that's a great question, because they said specific sites. Similar to Wellfleet started doing it. It's a way, we have one person right now doing it, it's a way to control the amount of work that the Shellfish Constable has to do. And it's also a way to
Yeah, I understand that to
control not going,
avoid
the issues with mine and
with
parking
neighbors.
lot.
Right.
Yeah,
I just want to flush it all out.
Yeah.
Make sure we understand what-
We should also ask potential aquaculture, so that's gonna be a heartache for them as well.
Right.
Yes, there's,
can you
Do you have
say
a
your
feel-
name
oh,
and
yeah,
address,
Craig
Craig?
was 17 Aikman Street, Scituate. Do you know how deep it is at low tide, those areas? Because you said everything has to come out in the winter. A lot of shellfishermen will sink there and leave it for the winter.
Yep.
Are you saying you can't do that?
That's what that was a suggestion, yes.
Okay, so if the water's deep enough, that's a viable way to keep them.
If it's deep enough. How deep would it have to be? Because I'm not sure it's gonna be deep enough
It's, yeah,
at low tide. So we can get that information.
Low tide winters.
because that's a critical thing.
Well, when
You
they survey,
have to take them off the farm and store them for the winter.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It's a cost.
Where if you could just sink them for the winter.
And risk the cost of losing them.
Yeah, but if it's deep enough,
Or they show up on somebody's beach. Deep or not deep, then they could show up on somebody's beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good question, we can follow up on that. When they do the survey, we'll know all that information.
Well, will they?
They'll know the depth.
And May 26th when they get out there, then.
That's true, on May 26th. True.
I would think that information's available.
Yep, we can,
Do you think, Mike, depths?
I think we could get close, but yeah.
The tides are always changing, but yeah, it might have a 2-foot negative one day versus you get a 12-foot tide during our Easter. So it is a dynamic area, but I think it's a valid point to leave stuff there growing,
Yeah.
in its natural area.
I mean, we want to make it as, what's the right word I want to use? We want to appease as many people as possible in doing this project. And I would probably vote, and I think we should vote tonight on these considerations to not allow overwintering. And obviously that puts a big burden on the shellfish. That might be considered. We don't know how many we're considering.
You gotta have that answer.
Don't we wanna wait till the DMF comes back with all their recommendations?
I wonder if we should, yeah. She said she'd probably get it, probably by our next meeting, she'll have all the recommendations. But I agree we should vote on it at some point, maybe if we can hold to all the
Table
recommendations.
the next meeting, so we get a little more information on, see how many towns actually do over winter.
And maybe
Yeah.
reach out to the
Yeah.
potentials to.
Yeah.
To see. I don't think we should ask them where they were intending to offload, but if they're intending to consider overwintering, would be.
Yeah.
And then, so where would we, so you folks are thinking about permitting specific offloading spots.
Yeah.
I'll buy into that. It's too limiting, I think.
I think that accommodates the resources to check can't be that many, I mean, there's not that many people to go to these locations, right? So limit that because there's not that many people that can check.
Well, lobstering, bring your boat, you offload wherever you dock, right, wherever you.
Yeah, you have to write down where you offload it,
Well, that's fine.
but
There's no limitation.
no. It should be Scituate Harbor and then possibly Parker Ave. I mean, anywhere in Scituate Harbor, because some guys might just be using the ramps and not have a dock or a pier.
So just say Scituate Harbor?
Yeah, offload, Scituate oysters are offloaded or landed in Scituate Harbor. And then you have,
Or Parker Ave.
yeah, or if you get that permission. That way it's just, there's a couple spots and it's covered.
Plus you had to cross the town pier as well, I mean, that's another spot.
Yeah.
It doesn't really have to do the boat ramp. Do a current pier though. In Central Harbor, you have Russo's, you have the boat ramp potentially.
I don't know, but was Cohasset cooperating like that? I mean, I don't think so.
We don't think so.
Probably not.
Yeah, but,
Okay,
yeah,
I mean,
but possibly.
those are things we can ask and follow up and,
Do you want to ask the potentials where they are planning on offloading, would that be a benefit to us? Not that it requires that they, have that as part of their, considered application, just their consideration. Maybe we should reread the applications.
Do we have clarification on how many, we did reach out to all of the applicants to see if they were still.
we did.
And heard from.
6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 of the 9.
So should we table these two? So those are the only two that you took out of the meeting?
Those were, and she was gonna follow up on additional ones, but those were the 2.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
If we hear any comments.
I did wanna bring up one other thing, because we have gotten, I think, 3 inquiries on, if we're still accepting applicants. So, that's also something we will have to discuss at some point.
Maybe have the
Maybe at the point that we know the acreage.
Well, the acreage, separate from the acreage that gets certified, is that the right term? We as a group have to decide what to recommend to the selectmen of
Yeah.
how many fishermen and the number of
Size.
plots and the size of their plots.
Yeah.
That I think we could decide soon.
I think we could decide that right after they do this site survey.
Right.
And I don't think it's fair to reopen a second round of applications when the first 6 or 9 have been at this for almost over 2 years. And I think they're in a higher tier personally, but.
Well, we are ranked, you're right, we'd have to re-rank. I don't think that's
I
not
don't-
fair.
Yeah, that would be unfair, we did it once, and why would we go back and re-rank them, we've already done that once.
Okay.
I mean, if you're gonna go into 6 of the 9 are in, and those 3 don't wanna participate, and there is extra room, if there is, then maybe go to a round 2, pick 3 more, 2 more, or 1 more, but the first ones that been here since thick as thin, I think should be.
I don't think anybody thinks
I don't
that
think
there's
anyone
gonna be more than
disagrees with that.
6
Yep.
in the pilot program.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanna mention it. And I can respond to them that, we're still working through a pilot program. Okay, any other discussion, and then you wanna move on to the topic of, the topic of the,
If you have any questions.
any questions? Oh, Dave.
Dave Doffney, 356 Clap Road. So when you talk about, first of all, is the aquaculture, permitted aquaculture restricted to oysters?
No.
So any bivalvular
Yeah, I mean,
mollusk or?
right, I think we define, in the regulations.
But just to
Any-
clarify,
yes.
because there's a lot of.
I don't think it's just bivalves, it's
No, it's
our
a couple of
regulations.
the
No,
Yeah.
Eelgrass, no.
Only you.
Yeah, exactly.
Patience to grow eelgrass.
And when you talk about overwinterizing, are you talking product or gear or both?
Good question.
Generally, it's product and gear, but not the like stakes at the end. So like I think we could probably come up with a picture of that, but the actual bags, you take the bags off, but then leave the poles.
Okay.
I thought all the cages were gone.
Yeah, or the cages, the bags or cages, whatever you're using.
If your aquaculture product that you're raising required bags,
You take the bags
then
off.
the bags themselves will be up, but
If you require cages, you take the cages.
Right, okay, just because there's, and I ask these questions because there's such a range of what can happen, but it seems to be focused on certain aspects of aquaculture, so for part of the discussion, just to open it up, there's way more to it than just bags of oysters, there's all other kinds of products.
Yeah.
And as far as the landings, I can speak from lobstering, they first of all, you're tracked for every move by the feds and or by the state, so they know exactly where you are as a lobster or a fisherman, so there's no question on that. The question of load and unload would be to bootleg or to move product in a fashion less than legal.
Nefarious, Dave.
Nefarious, thank you. So when our lobsters are landed, it's mainly in volume, you're at commercial or private docks, but has access for enforcement to check you, either board you on the boat or board you, or check your catch at the dock, or check your catch in the truck, so the landing part of it isn't to make it as difficult as possible for the person to make a living at what he's trying to do. The landing is part of the complete loop of enforcement. Right, so, and the difference that I just wanna make sure the difference is the landing and the access are two different things that you guys are talking about. Access is one part of it, but the actual moving of the product in and the moving of the product out is another.
And so as a group, are we not considering now access? If you can find legal access, are we gonna say, go at it?
Yeah, well,
Like a canoe
not
also.
every day are you gonna harvest or plant.
That's right.
Yeah,
So there's
right.
a startup, then there's a process of maintaining, and then there's.
Right, so are we saying you could take a kayak, a canoe, or a skiff off of private property to go tend your, we're saying that that's legit?
Yes.
That's
As
what
long
I,
as you're not
Even if
moving
it's
product.
lighted parking lot, you could.
Can't restrict
if you could-
access.
If you have a
We
permit
can't
for parking.
restrict access based on that.
access will be self-restricting, yeah. Either tied or
Yeah,
parked.
you have your best friend, your brother, your dad has a friend that lives on Minot and, or anywhere, go ask it and lets me go out. And
Right.
that's-
So thank you, I just wanted to just touch
Thank
base.
you.
Thank you, Dave.
And also what Dave touched on with the landings and things like that, as part of requirements for, they have to date, time stamp pretty much from the first oyster is picked up and time, location, where they're going, landing site, everything is all on there. So it's pretty strict, so, but it's not like I understand the dock every time somebody comes in on a Friday, like, it's like lobster, these guys are not gonna go out there and keep short lobsters or egg lobsters, they're hurting their own industry, they're not gonna do that. You know, for the most part, but like, if you're spot checking people, it's only 6 harvesters. Duxbury has 3 full-timers, and Duxbury Harbor Master staff, and there's over 20 growers. So I think we meet the threshold of handling 6 growers.
And of the 20 growers, there's probably over 100 employees handling the product,
Yeah.
moving it back.
So as far as our enforcement, I think I'm pretty confident.
And spot checking is what works.
Watch, keep honest, people
Right.
honest.
I think standing there with a ruler, making sure you have 3 inches of ice every single time, but, you know, their name's on it and they're responsible for the catch. You know, if somebody does get sick, I mean, it's on them,
You don't want it to go back.
Yeah,
So we need to drill into what we are talking about gear and over in winter.
Yes.
What gear, if we do decide to allow any gear out there, what gear would that be?
And I think that's also a good question to DMF, what
I
their
definitely
recommendations
Get some
are.
more on the overwinter stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I think of a couple ideas top of my head. I mean, you have lobster cars in Scituate Harbor. That catch could be moved to Scituate Harbor for the winter, barring any ice. But then you would have to wait a certain amount of time before it was harvested or purged. And it would probably trigger a permit because you're going from an open area to a closed area, but I could dig more into that, but.
What do you mean overwintering the unharvested stuff in Scituate Harbor?
Doesn't make permits, you technically do it.
Even though Scituate Harbor isn't
It doesn't,
for any.
but you're not harvesting, you just basically growing the lobsters in the salt water in the harbor for the whole winter. And then come springtime, you put it back out, so you're actually helping the harvester versus moving things 10 times. Yeah, you're moving them into the lobster car or aquaculture car, whatever you wanna call it, but there is adequate space for that. Scituate Harbor is being tested, I'll tell you what, I don't think it's far behind all the sewer projects that have been done down the harbor, so. I feel like confident Scituate Harbor will come online in the next couple of years, I really do. So then it's not even, it's a good issue. So that's another option. I no one thought about that. You're welcome.
So now I have a question. So I was feeling really good, like, all right, Minot is gonna be off the list, and Minot is now back on the list. It's just for harvesting. We're back to people can park and try to launch in the parking lot during the summer. It's already covered.
To not harvest, to.
Not to harvest.
It's honestly, harvesting, I mean, I don't know anything, but that's, however often that happens, it's the going back and forth that to me is much more invasive for people that live in one place.
So I don't know if we need any more invasive than somebody pushing off a kettle board or a kite.
We don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They could be bringing traps. They have a trailer park.
Right. I think barring any specific town regulations signed by the selectmen or town bylaw, signed by town government, stopping any kind of access there, because it's providing access to the Commonwealth Highlands for every resident, any citizen. If you're gonna limit it to one person over another, I think you're getting into selective enforcement. I don't wanna see people drag out lobster cars and concrete mixers to do the show work, which we're already familiar to that, but if somebody's launching a 16-foot skiff or a canoe kayak, they go out there, it's titled to begin with, so I don't think it's gonna be occurring that much. I really don't see it occurring
I don't
that
think
much.
so.
And they need a
It's
legitimate
really
parking.
commercial, I mean, for guys, that sounds like backbreaking work to be up in like a mud flat, with like a midgie's biting and just timing, it's like,
beach traffic.
Yeah, beach traffic, it's just, it would be like more of an emergency, I think.
Yeah,
for most of the guys.
The storm's coming and you need to.
And we're gonna go do something, then that might happen or whatever, real windy or something, but for people to be like every day trying to operate like that, it won't be a successful,
How busy is that area as far as just kayakers, paddle? I mean, is it really busy with a lot of people in and out of there?
Which area are you talking about?
Right at mine, where you're talking
It's
with
just,
your concern.
the window is so small,
Yeah, it's 4 hours.
and it's so narrow, so, I mean, I don't know. It's probably used every day that it's, not 30-mile-an-hour wind, although there were people out today, God bless them, I don't know why, but they were out there.
Well, it was a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, except it was like 35-mile-an-hour winds and it was.
So what
surfers.
Would a couple of guys going out in a small craft to check their oyster farm represent any more of a visual blight?
I think it's
to
the motor,
you?
I
Is
think
that-
it's no, it's not the visual blight, I mean, we love watching people, recreate, I think it looks we love it, I mean, it's a beautiful place, we love that people are out there enjoying it, but from a practical standpoint, if Susan's out paddleboarding with her 2 kids and someone with a motorcraft is trying to get buyer, or, you know, that, and I don't, it's kayak launch, why anybody with a motorized craft would even be allowed is beyond me anyway. I mean, I think, to me, I don't know what the recreation people who put those kayak launch in, what their intention was, but I can't imagine it was for boats. I would assume it was for kayaks and paddleboards and canoes. I mean, that's where I don't know, I've spent a lot of time paddleboarding and with my kids on the paddleboard, and I mean, both slow down. I mean, everyone gets along, and it's not, there's plenty of boats coming up and down that area, but they keep them in the marsh. Probably not legally, but they're not going all the way up to the launch.
It's also just so time dependent, it's just not gonna be an option. So it's not gonna be something between, you know, if I were gonna go out there if the timing was right, where I timed it, where the tides were right, and I could get in, and granted, it wasn't, you know, the middle of the day on a beach day, but everyone parked there, why would you go there? I think it's more about, we can't suggest places where, hey, you cannot do this there, you cannot do it there. The fact of the matter is, you can do it there, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And there's
You need a place to park.
There's no ramp there, it just doesn't, so it's more about just, you can do it if you want to, but it's really not gonna, it's not gonna work out well.
And we're talking about the parking lot on Bailey's Causeway,
Yeah,
Bates Road.
Yeah, there's two,
Yeah.
So I know that there's two of them,
but
but the
hard to find
paved
one.
one that has the direct access to the water takes some doing to get anything down there. And yeah, I don't think you're gonna be seeing
And
guys
dragging a Caroline
carrying a
skiff.
skiff down it, you know, and then the water.
Yeah, they don't motorize it.
It's not restricted.
No, but
have you ever seen
practically.
a boat launch there?
Only the residents that are already in the water.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, only the residents, I've never even seen a boat being launched there. I would think you mess up your travel.
Years going
ago.
back a number of years, I won't say how many, but we used to keep a boat in the creek, you can anchor it, you can paddle to it, go to it.
I feel like the parking lot used to do that though. They used to go, now there's like steps there and like whatever.
Gosh, what we really need is moorings, huh?
I know, what about the warrants?
What about moorings? I mean, it'd be ideal to have
I'll
moorings.
pull a scale.
Hey, if we all had moorings there on the Scituate side of Cohasset Harbor, no one would have to go up that little creek.
Yeah, I mean, that is a thought.
Something for discussion.
I think we should keep the tumblers there too.
Free oyster shells for your driveway?
Good neighbor stuff.
Okay, so I don't know if we wanna talk about that as even an option to look into that.
Outside of our scope, where we can,
Yeah.
I think we definitely have some knowledge about it that can be discussed as an option.
But in answer to your first question, Dave, the approved regulation in 2019 says that the rights granted under a license, section 8A1, plant and grow shellfish bottom or off bottom culture, and shellfish is defined as in most of the bylaws. So it's.
I just want to get it out for the discussion.
It's defined. If you want me to read you the definition, I'll read you the definition. But
I'm good with it.
okay, all right. Just you asked the question.
No, well, it was a loaded question to get the discussion about the fact that this isn't just oysters. There's a multitude of aquaculture products that can be harvested, grown, planted, however you want to call it. You can free range your oysters, you can free range your butter clams, you can do steamers, you can do co-op, whatever it is.
I don't think I don't know what your definition of free range is, but I don't think that we said that you could free range.
That's chicken.
I know it's a chicken.
Maybe I want to do chickens.
But, you know, I mean, I can see how Scituate free range oysters would be a good market for Whole Foods, right?
Can we, do you wanna move the discussion to,
Yes,
Sorry, but I don't think that we have that.
yeah, so back to Dave's, these regulations are not just for Great Harbor, they're also for the North and South Derivatives as well. So like a person could come in and grow clams in the river through aquaculture and sell them for bait potentially, or sell them for harvest, like for transplant somewhere else or a contaminated area. Which a lot of our clams used to come from the Taunton River, which is contaminated, but we would bring them here because they were cheaper, but they would purge in 30 days as we would test the meats. And then the next month the river would be open, so. And we're also standing here living, so I don't think it's that bad.
Pass the paddle.
All right, well, so do we have anything more on the aquaculture? Or do you wanna move into recreational update?
Before we do that, I just want to
Okay.
confirm again, I'm into the big picture here of, our process will be, we'll get this information from DMF regarding their suggestions of tweaks to our rules,
Yep, for next meeting,
hopefully for next meeting.
I'm gonna ask very nicely.
If we get that, do we think we'd be able to not only tweak our rules, but also go the next step and make a decision on, we'll have an area defined, let's say it's about the 10 acres of what we'd like to do regarding the number, the size, and the number of farmers, the number of plots, and the size of those plots. Do you think we'll be ready to?
When's the next meeting? We may not know, we have the survey done by next meeting.
I don't think the survey will be done by next meeting.
DMF survey.
They said May.
So then we're talking June at the earliest before we'll be able to
Yes.
get to the selectmen with our recommendations on.
I think even by the time you get to the meat review, you're talking next spring. Meat or not required, you look at next spring. I think.
For their survey to give us the
No,
ability to.
for everything done.
No, I'm talking about not only everything done, but we need to, our mission is to give to the selectmen suggestion of not only the finalized rules, but, the number, the size, and the number of farmers, the number of plots, and the size of those plots. That's what we need to give to the selectmen
Correct, and we would do that in June.
before everything is finalized. We hope to do it
Yes.
if we have the DMF maps,
Correct.
just to give us a game plan.
Yep. And they would approve to do a public hearing, and they would approve in June.
Whatever they're gonna approve.
Yes.
Got
So recreational,
Sure, Rivers,
rivers, we've got an update on that too.
you wanna talk about the bar grant that you got last week, or? Steve? So you wanna hear the marine fisheries update for the day, or? Wanna go there?
Yeah.
So I got an email today from Jeff Kennedy, requesting 2-week updates, so this is from Marshall and Scituate. DMF toward the Scituate wastewater treatment plant to help our wastewater management team evaluation. Good progress loading the model with environmental data and beginning to load 3 years of plant performance data. Meeting with SMAS, which is at UMass Dartmouth, in 2 weeks for another progress report. So that was today from Jeff Kennedy. So that's where we're at. That was Susan. What was the other email we got from the other scientist from Marine Fisheries? That she was modeling the MSC and everything else? Do you have that?
Do I have?
It's a little more,
That was a little bit more information.
yeah. You can put it online too. So obviously the North South River watershed has been good partners as well. And they're looking at the wastewater treatment, the affluent, and it's a long way to email, but I've already put online because I don't really understand all of it. But it was from one of the workers that works at the Shellfish purification plant up in Newbury to work. So I think more DMF folks are getting involved. It's good that the marine fisheries is at the sewer plant looking at it. So I think there was a report the last meeting, all the tests have come out of there have been pretty good, better than what they expected, so I think it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, not fast enough for all of us.
Not fast at all.
Ends May 30th. I know Dave Dawson will probably touch on this as well. I know he's been equally at this as well. So Dave, you want to discuss your stance with the USFDA here?
Just that it's, as I understand, there's been a request made either by Senator O'Connor's office or DMF, and I haven't been able to confirm either one, and they want further defined the reply that I got on 2 emails that said that the US FDA has no issue with recreational harvest in the area. And they would, yeah, so let that sink in just a minute. So this is, it's obviously just a stall in the situation. And I don't have anything other to report than that, that was a couple weeks ago, but I don't know. I guess that was pretty much it. There was some, one of the things I just wanted to clarify with you, Mike, is there's still, there's a lot of people that think it's closed because it's polluted and because the plant is malfunctioning. And I just want to make sure, agree that it's closed so that they can see if there's a problem. There's no underlying, there's no red flags, there's no anything going on there. We've all hammered them in each way about currents and about, you know, they're obviously overzealous in their closing by the opinion of a lot of people and what they're trying to find. So previous to the closure, there was no problem. During the closure, it's closed, not for pollution, but it's closed because of access until they find out that there isn't anything wrong, which is different than mooring fields. They've left mooring fields open until they can find a problem, which is something that was on the meeting, so.
Right, yeah, so mooring fields are a big part of like shellfish bed areas because of potential sewage, things like that. But the time when the flats are open is November 1st to May 30th. So there's not a lot of people boating in the rivers during those times anyway. And there's not a lot of moorings, well, there is the south river, but there's not a heck of a lot of moorings where people are actually digging that will make it substantial. There's no marinas in the areas that people are harvesting recreational. There's not. Those areas are closed anyway. So the areas that were open, that probably still should be open. There's no impacts from marinas and overly abundant amount of boats, of saturated boats and moorings. So, especially with coupled with the folded rivers, 2 rivers coming in and out of there, it's a lot of water. And I said before, I'd be hard pressed to believe that there's less water coming out of the North and South River than there is coming out of Duxbury Bay on a daily basis.
And I do want to add that Senator Representative Kearney's office and Senator O'Connor's office have been hand in hand on communicating with the DMF about what's going on, you know, and they referred to the email that I got that said, listen, who are we answering to? And that brings me up to my next question, which was, do we know exactly who they met with, the DMF, met with when there was a concern over the area for potential risk? Do we know what agency, was that an Amy Fitzpatrick visit, who's our area?
I believe it was FDA. Okay, that was discussed at the last meeting.
Yeah.
That they were looking to have a meeting to clarify, I think from what you brought up, I forget the statement you said, or I rephrase it.
Yeah.
But they were looking for guidance on what did he actually mean. Well, I forget what the text you had put in.
Right, yeah, exactly. That they didn't have.
We haven't got an answer back on that.
Okay, so I just didn't know going back when they first closed, who is the US FDA that came down and had concerns over the area?
As we all know, there's only one model ordinance, and we're kind of being held captive. Like it's like we are vehicles, class D vehicles, but we're actually being held to like drive school buses, have a class A license for our school buses, or tractor trailers. it's apples to oranges. I mean, like the shrimpers eat the steamers in the river too, and the clams, so the birds. But why is that not closed? Why is it only harvesting? There's nothing in the river that people eat raw. They cook everything, so it makes it even safer.
And on that same thing, I attended an online meeting for the Shellfish Advisory Committee, I think it was for DMF, and not once in that 2-hour plus meeting did anyone mention anything about the power plant releasing cooling water out of the nuclear power plant. And so I didn't know if you had anything to add to that although our area was closed, has it been a topic of concern through the shellfish constables?
No. So as far as like potential leak there is EPZ, emergency protection zone. Scituate's outside of that, obviously Plymouth, Duxbury, Marshall are inside of that, but that would be for a discharge of radiation, obviously. But as far as shellfishing, with Holtec, it hasn't been discussed as far as shellfishing. I know Duxbury and Plymouth are vehemently fighting to discharge that water, and I'm not sure where it's gonna go, but from all I see, it's probably gonna be trucked out of there. And probably a hefty fee, probably.
And then just the last thing, the clam boat was removed and
So the Bing Bing was removed, I talked about the last waterways meeting, the Bing Bing is out of Scituate waters. That area has been reopened for commercial harvest of surf clams. And recreational from the beach actually, so you can go to Humrock Beach and get clams. Plus, they're kind of like 15, 20 feet of water, so. Unless you got a long rig, once you get that.
anything over 5 feet deep for me, okay?
But they are out there, that is an open area, Egypt Beach is open as well. I mean, there are surf clams there, but you're gonna need some gear to get to them. So, but I think all we see now, the Scituate wastewater treatment plant, progress in the reports, I think it's looking good. I don't think it's gonna happen from now to May 30th this year, but I think a lot of people are rowing in the same direction now and kind of narrowing down the loopholes and holes in the stories, and we're all kind of rowing in the same direction, so I'm hopefully optimistic for next year.
Thank you for your
Last year too, but I mean, it's everybody, North Suffolk Watershed, Dave, all you guys as well. The senator and state rep were the ones that got the $100,000 to even make this study happen. They were hoping to do like 10 to 12 wastewater treatment plants along the state, and really it's gonna come down to this one at a tune of about $80,000 when they're all said and done, so I'm pretty happy for that. So for most communities, they don't really think Cohasset sewer plant's gonna be an issue because it's 5 times less the capacity, so, which is good for things and all things Break Harbor, so. It's not perfect, but
Progress.
it's progress, but
Progress.
government has one speed and unfortunately it's not fast, or it is going.
Mike, in your conversations with the modeling group, can you let them know that as we get our new drinking water treatment plants online, we're expected to reduce, I don't know if it was 30,000 gallons a year or 30,000 gallons a month of clean water that goes through the wastewater treatment plant because of the sediment in it. So that may be important for their calculations to look into that.
It'll change things. But there hasn't been an issue with the sewer plant in, I think, 3 or 4 years. They had one after another charge, I think in 19 or 17. But other than that, it's really, things happen, but, there was no one out there. And they closed it for 2 weeks and people were back digging and it was perfectly fine. I think Dave alluded to a previous meeting before, both Board of Health in both towns have not had one case on record of somebody getting sick or ill from shellfish in the rivers.
The aluminum can though has been coming as a problem. Yeah, that's a different.
Okay, any questions from the, I see Katie Baxter's on. Any questions? No. All right.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
All right, we're making progress. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all those in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you this morning.
Hey, I've been out already. Have you? I go west.
What?
I go west. I went out. Monday.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's really hit or miss for me, mostly a miss.
Surfing out and watching.
Man,